If you think 622 horsepower sounds awesome,
This is a serious car. I bet it doesn't know a single joke.
imagine what 739 horsepower would sound like.
It is as quiet as a library for church mice.
Monday, Top Gear at 9:35 on Pearl.
Dino Zoff remains the only Italian ever to have won both major international tournaments. Between 1972 and 1974, Zoff went an incredible 1,142 minutes without conceding a goal for Italy. Gaetano Scirea was the organizer and brains for both club and country, and renowned for his fair play and sportsmanship. Franco Baresi is considered by many as the greatest defender of all time, reaching the semi-finals of both Euro 88 and Italia 90. 2006 World Cup winning captain Fabio Cannavaro is the Azzurri's all-time record appearance maker, and just the second defender ever to win the World Player of the Year in 2006.
You're watching TVB Pearl. Upshotly for more in-depth interviews and stories. Stay with us for 60 minutes. Accidents. Mishaps. Epic failures. Call them whatever you want. The show that everyone loves to watch, but won't admit. America's Funniest Home Videos. Tonight at 8 on Pearl.
收唔到，收到，收唔到，收到，收唔到，
收到收唔到，唔係靠彩數。遠足前應準備好，睇地圖，上網攞料實幫到。一旦遇上緊急事故，就打112，只要有任何一間電話公司嘅網絡覆蓋到，警察就會收到。呢，揾到佢求救實收到，拎埋對講機就更好。拜拜。
我哋收到啦，你又收到冇？
Be prepared for your outing. Know more about communications in country areas.
The government has relaxed eligibility for a rebate on the buyer's stamp duty. But can it really stimulate more activity in the market without raising property prices? Also, Money Magazine, how 4G changes internet lifestyles in China. Money Magazine, Sunday night at 6:55 on Pearl.
I volunteered. I don't blame nothing on anybody. I don't blame nothing on myself. I don't blame nothing on my leaders. In fact, I had...
We've seen a lot of stories about veterans and post-traumatic stress disorder. But tonight, we're able to show you new therapies that are changing the lives of vets and their families.
After 8 weeks here, how you doing?
How am I doing? I don't know yet. That's an honest answer. But I know deep down inside, things will work themselves out.
We all know that sex matters, but we're now finding out just how much sex matters when it comes to medicine and science. One significant example, research raises questions about whether prescription drugs should be dosed differently for men and women.
Does that tell you that we really need to go back and review?
Yes.
What, everything?
Pretty much everything.
Tonight, what you need to know about these findings and what may or may not be changing.
Smile.
You may know Liam Neeson for his Oscar-nominated role in Schindler's List. But at the improbable age of 61, he's become one of Hollywood's highest-paid action stars.
Reports are for Taken 3, you're going to make upwards of $50 million. You're laughing.
Tonight, Neeson reveals why his hard-earned success is bittersweet and the grief he feels over the death of his wife, actress Natasha Richardson.
Grief's like it's like a wave.
I'm Steve Croft.
I'm Leslie Stahl.
I'm Morley Safer.
I'm Bob Simon.
I'm Anderson Cooper.
I'm Scott Pelley. Those stories tonight on 60 Minutes. This week, President Obama will get a report on the developing scandal at the Department of Veterans Affairs. Some VA hospitals are accused of cooking up phony records to conceal waiting times that can stretch into months. This story is about one of the challenges that has strained the VA in recent years. It's the large number of vets suffering with post-traumatic stress disorder. 2 million vets have served in Iraq and Afghanistan, and 1 out of 5 has PTSD. Overwhelmed by this need, the VA decided to try new treatments originally designed for rape victims. As we first reported last fall, this new PTSD therapy has been promising. For 2 months, doctors and patients allowed us to sit in and listen as troubled vets fought the war within.
How can you live the life where everyone's afraid of you? You know, you go to town and people says, that's the crazy vet, don't mess with him.
My wife told me, something's got to change or we got to leave.
When you try to talk to somebody that hasn't been there, hasn't experienced it, they don't understand. And so you just kind of get laughed at.
Yeah.
The 16 men around this table arrived via Afghanistan, Iraq, or both. Some are here from Vietnam.
I see that I do have, that opportunity to pick myself up at 63 years old and start all over again.
They've started over again many times, but their path has led back to isolation, drugs, booze, and suicide attempts. Now, they're in the VA hospital in Little Rock, Arkansas, where they will live for 8 weeks to break through the emotions that have derailed their lives.
Depression, anxiety, anger, worthlessness, guilt.
Guilt?
Survivors, guilt. Why me? Why am I alive? Why are they not? That's one of the hardest thoughts to deal with,
Eric Collins was wounded in a rocket attack in Afghanistan. Over a year, 17 of his buddies died.
How did you cope with these feelings of anger and depression and guilt when you first got out?
Alcohol, and lots of it. That's where it started off. And alcohol led to my depression worsening, which led to more substance abuse. Crack, cocaine is my drug of choice. So my whole life spiraled downward out of control.
To take control, Collins volunteered for one of the new therapies called prolonged exposure. It forces him to work at remembering every detail of what he's tried to forget.
Next thing I hear a loud boom. My ears start ringing. And I wake up, open my eyes, and I'm on the ground.
Dr. Kevin Reeder runs the program.
How are you feeling at this point? What were you feeling at that time?
Anger, I'm scared. Feeling pain. My leg, my back, my arm, my whole body.
Okay, let's go from the beginning. Gotta keep doing this.
Next thing I know, I hear a loud boom.
They call it prolonged exposure because Collins will relive the story of the attack 5 times a session. There's a tape running, and he'll listen to his memory throughout the day to break its power.
Tell me about prolonged exposure therapy.
Sure. They've done everything they can to push these memories away. In the process, they haven't gained a full realization of the impact and the meaning that these stories have on their lives. I like to use the term, we're staring the dragon in the eye.
Where did these therapies come from?
A lot of these therapies came about with survivors of physical or sexual abuse, those types of traumas.
What are the similarities?
The symptoms. The symptoms, the avoidance, the isolation, the hypervigilance, the extreme anxiety, irritability, inability to sleep, nightmares. Same thing. Different sources, but same thing.
Can't move my legs, Can't move my arms.
What does that do for you?
It helps me to get past the guilt, survivor's guilt. And that's a building block. Every time I get through it, I get stronger. And it helps every time.
It's okay to be alive.
Yeah.
And you weren't sure that was true before?
No, I didn't want to be alive. I wanted to be right there with them. You know, the whole purpose of life was gone.
To lose one of your buddies in a firefight, you don't want to see that. You don't want to feel that again. And so, yeah, when you get back to the rear, you're pissed off because you don't want to get close to anybody anymore.
Anthony Appolito experienced those multiple tours we talked about. He fought for a year in Afghanistan, spent 1 month at home, then went to Iraq, and later Afghanistan again.
The more deployments you get, the more time you spend out there. It just keeps on stacking. I mean, the first one, it hurts, but you don't get really time to heal. And then another one happens, and another one.
On his first tour, Appolito's patrol was ambushed. 2 buddies died, and 20 were wounded.
I had no weapon. No one had my back.
They write about days like that in the other key therapy here, called cognitive processing.
After a trauma or multiple traumas, often a person can believe the world just is a dangerous place. And so what we do with CPT, cognitive processing therapy, is they write an impact statement at the beginning of therapy to show them the impact of the trauma on their lives and on their beliefs.
They read that statement about the trauma to the group, and then they discuss how their lives are still held in the grip of war.
I never had a fear of life. I never had a fear of living. I never had a fear of going to the gas station and getting shot while I'm pumping gas because I needed gas in my car.
They plow through a workbook that challenges their guilt with statements like, "I shot a woman in combat, therefore I'm worthless," or "My friend was killed by the enemy, I'm responsible." Cognitive processing tries to put the war in the past and help them re-examine who they are today. It's tough. We noticed this on Appolito's workbook.
How many of you would go back to a deployed environment with your branch of service right now if that opportunity was available to you? A lot of hands up. Real quick, why are your hands going up so much?
You miss everything about it, how hard it was, how bitter you got, how angry and emotional, the things you saw, and you missed that camaraderie, that brotherhood, your buddy. Yes, that downtime, the struggling with things, man, it's everything, but you miss it, you mourn that. It's weird, it's that intimacy, I will never get that back. None of us will ever get that back.
Gable Darbone never planned to be part of that brotherhood he mentioned. In 2001, he was out of high school headed to college, but then 9/11 pushed him to an Army recruiter instead.
My mom, I remember she was crying in the kitchen. She goes, "Gable, you don't know what it's like for those boys coming back from Vietnam, how hard they had it, and what they came back with." I said, "Mom, it's different, though. We got attacked. We got attacked." I said, "I'm volunteering." I said, "I'll take anything. I'm willing to give my life." That's how strongly I felt.
Because I joined to serve the country. I joined to protect my freedoms, my future kids' freedoms.
Darbone was one of the most thoughtful people we met. He served in Afghanistan and Iraq. One day, his unit was clearing a house. It exploded, and 2 buddies were burned.
You can get angry, get mad. We get very angry. And we took it out on certain people, and you enjoyed it at the time. You did.
You did things to Iraqis that you're not proud of.
Of course, but that was surviving emotionally, mentally. I was never a violent man. I became different, slowly. We all have that instinct, that survival instinct. And that survival instinct is very real.
At home, the survival instinct didn't let go. Darbone was like most other vets here. Certain triggers brought the instinct back. The smell of diesel returned him to his combat outpost. Crowds made him fearful.
I started isolating. I couldn't do anything. My dad had to come over and mow my lawn. Mom had to come over and pay my bills. I wouldn't leave my house for a day or two. I didn't want to make small talk. I didn't want somebody to ask me, hey, how you doing? I didn't like those words. You know, I got very secluded, like a recluse.
For 9 years, Darbone told himself he was okay or would be okay. And then the folks at work urged him to get help. This was Darbone after 7 weeks of self-examination, as they all prepared to go home.
And when I went in, I had a heart. And I volunteered. I don't blame nothing on anybody. I don't blame nothing on myself. I don't blame nothing on my leaders. In fact, I had good leaders. I blame nothing on the Army. I think it's just the way it is. And it sucks. I hate it. I hate it. I don't want to go home. I don't, you know. People would always ask me when I came back, so what do I tell my boyfriend when he comes back, or how do I approach this to my son? I said, when he starts talking, just listen. Yeah, don't judge it. You know, just listen.
There is probably a soldier or a Marine sitting alone watching this on television right now.
Thousands of them, I'd imagine.
And to them, you would say what?
I hope you can find the courage to get help, because all you're doing is killing yourself. And you don't have to live like that. There is good people in this world that are willing to help you, and it's been the hardest thing for me to do, but I wouldn't have changed coming here for the world.
In our 2 months here, 28 men sat around the table. 3 couldn't endure it and dropped out. The VA finds that nationwide, about 77% graduate from this with a drop in their PTSD symptoms. It's progress, but they also have a saying around here: there is no cure.
I don't think there is a cure for what we're talking about. We're talking about living and putting people more in touch with their lives and emotions and good days and bad days. This isn't cancer. We can't go get it. We have to teach people that they can live with this and live a valued life, a life they want.
After 8 weeks here, how you doing?
How am I doing? I don't know yet. That's an honest answer. But I know deep down inside, things will work themselves out.
Since our visit to Little Rock, 145 veterans have gone through the residential treatment program. Hundreds more have signed up for treatment there in the coming year. The 3 vets that we featured, Eric Collins, Anthony Appolito, and Gable Darbone, all continue to receive help with PTSD at home. Gabe Darbone is taking what he learned in Little Rock and is working toward becoming a mentor for other vets. He told us, "This is a second chance for me, one I'm going to embrace." To learn more about these therapies in our story and how to get help, go to 60minutesovertime.com.
Should you vote for me just because I'm the rich, popular, good-looking guy?
I only came to give you a second chance.
You have a year to find someone to love you. Or stay like this forever.
No. Pretty gruesome, huh?
I've seen worse.
She would like it when you are being kind.
I thought I'd take the ugly and shameful thing and turn it into something not.
I need more time.
Tonight, Beastly on Pearl's Weekend Blockbuster.
The war is over.
It's gonna be fun. Astrid, she's been glaring at me all night.
Well, you did try and have her killed.
I said I was sorry. If you want me to leave, I can leave.
No. The Tomorrow People, Tuesday at 10:50 on Pearl.
With just a slight change of your habits, you can become a member of the water-saving elite. Follow me. washing vegetables or dishes without keeping the water running. Taking a shorter shower and washing clothes with a full load can help save lots of water. Save water now. Log on to the Water Supplies Department's website to join the Let's Save 10 Litres water campaign and commit to saving our water resources.
Bowl and play basketball in this one-of-a-kind Vegas hotel room.
We have the Hardwood Suite, which is the only suite in the world that has a full-size half-court basketball court.
And get a taste of Tokyo in Dubai. Wednesday, unique hotels and restaurants at 8:30 on Pearl. Look who's back in the MasterChef kitchen.
One of you can win this.
Who will make a comeback?
The flavor elevator is back, and we're going up.
Thursday and Friday, MasterChef Season 3 at 8:30 on Pearl.
Early last year, the Food and Drug Administration made an unusual and surprising announcement. It cut the recommended dose of the most popular sleep drug in the country, Ambien, in half for women. It turns out men and women metabolize Ambien, known generically as Zolpidem, very differently, leaving women with more of the drug in their bodies the next morning, and therefore at a greater risk of impaired driving. Ambien, Zolpidem, is now the only prescription drug in the country with a different suggested dose for men and women. But as we first reported in February, it is far from an isolated example of differences between the sexes we never imagined. More and more, scientists are realizing that the differences are dangerously understudied and that pervasively and fundamentally, sex matters. Take aspirin. Low-dose aspirin lowers the risk of heart attacks in healthy men, but in healthy women, turns out it doesn't, though it does protect women against stroke. And drugs are just the beginning. Sex differences have been found in pain receptors, liver enzymes, even the wiring of the brain.
We have generated just a ton of information that suggests that there's sex differences everywhere.
Larry Cahill, a neuroscientist at the University of California, Irvine, used to share his field's assumption that males and females outside the reproductive system were fundamentally the same. But he's changed his outlook 180 degrees. Ambien, he says, is a case in point. Ambien, prescribed 40 million times just last year. Approved 20 years ago. We're only now finding out that women have been prescribed a dose that's twice as high as they need.
That is a textbook example of what's wrong. How did it happen that for 20-some years, women, millions of them, were essentially overdosing on Ambien?
The FDA says it made the change after new driving simulation studies established what amount of Ambien or Zolpidem in the blood the next morning could be dangerous for driving. Dr. Sandra Queter, Deputy Director of the FDA's Office of New Drugs, says only then did they realize women could be taking too much, since women metabolize the drug differently than men.
So if I took Zolpidem and my brother took the same dose, probably the maximum level of drug in my blood would be 45% higher than his maximum blood level.
Now that sounds substantial.
It is substantial.
But we discovered that that 45% difference between men and women had been known to the FDA all along. In the original FDA review of Ambien back in 1992, there was a page called Effect of Gender, where the FDA reviewer noted that two key measures of how much drug is in the bloodstream were approximately 45% higher in females than in males.
It appears to say that they found a significant difference in how this drug is being processed in the body, and then the question is, what did they do with that? And the answer appears to be, they rationalized it away.
I'm going to hand you that page, Effect of Gender.
Okay.
The FDA reviewer went on to write, the results suggest a gender-related difference. However, the lack of specific details, such as study design and individual data, make it difficult to draw a definite conclusion. So when you see that They didn't give you enough data. Did you go back, or should you have gone back and said, okay, what was the study design? What was the data?
If I saw this today, in light of today's science,
Yes.
I think we would go back and try to tease this out a little bit further. But I think at the time, this was generally, this was sort of business as usual for what you saw in clinical pharmacology studies.
That's because, she says, there was no evidence at the time that the difference mattered. That was 20 years ago, when if someone said women's health, it usually meant what they call bikini medicine: breast and ovarian cancer, pregnancy, menstrual cycles. But for parts of the body men and women share, hearts, kidneys, the brain, most of the studies were done predominantly on men. If you want to understand me, they study you.
And here's why they do that. Because there's this assumption that you are me with pesky hormones.
Oh, with pesky hormones.
I'm being only partially facetious. The idea is that the fundamental things that are similar between you and me. So that, ironically, the best way to study you is to study me. Because when
you don't have pesky hormones.
Right. We're studying all the fundamental things in you without this sort of nuisance stuff. That's literally an assumption on which all of biological medicine, especially neuroscience, which I know best, has been built.
But given what we now know, he says that assumption has to go. Look at heart disease, which is the leading killer of both men and women.
Sorry. That's okay.
Cardiologist Noelle Berry-Mers from Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles says women, like her patient Pearl Grumette, can differ from men in the way they have heart attacks.
I had this excruciating pain in between my shoulder blades, and then I got the nauseous feeling in my stomach.
So the man comes in, he has chest pain, sometimes a radiating pain down the left arm. The woman comes in.
She might be having stomach upset. She might be feeling fatigue. She might just be short of breath.
Why does she even go?
Because they don't feel right, and they know something's wrong.
They know something's wrong. Did you ever have chest pain in this whole time?
No.
You can see here's the constriction.
Typically, men get clogs in major arteries that are easy to see on an angiogram. But many women get blockages in tiny microvessels inside the heart. So their heart disease is more often missed. You were having a heart attack. Pearl had 4 minor heart attacks. 5 different hospitals couldn't find the problem.
Doctor comes in and he says, when you find out what's wrong with you, would you please let me know? Because we don't have any idea what's wrong.
Dr. Berry-Mers says one of the reasons we haven't learned more about women goes all the way back to the beginning of the scientific pipeline to research on animals. Oh my goodness gracious me. Dr. Melina Kibbe is a vascular surgeon who also runs a lab at Northwestern University Medical School, where she evaluates new therapies in mice and rats. If I walked into a lab anywhere in the country doing animal research, what are my chances of coming upon a study with only male animals?
Very large.
Today.
Correct.
Turns out female rats also have those pesky hormones.
So to control for that variable, most researchers study just males. I was also studying just males.
So it made sense, or you maybe didn't even think about it?
I didn't even think about it.
And neither did Doris Taylor, a leading stem cell expert at Texas Heart Institute in Houston, until she was designing an experiment in mice to see if injections of stem cells could reverse plaque buildup in their arteries. And she needed a way to track the stem cells in the animals.
So what we decided to do is give female animals male stem cells, because we could track the Y chromosome. And we said, let's give male animals female cells.
You only did it so you could track the cells.
So we could track the cells.
She was surprised to find the results were not the same.
The male animals we gave female cells got better. And the female animals we gave male cells actually got a little worse.
Only the female stem cells got rid of the plaque.
And you can see all this fat here, the pink.
The male mouse artery on the left had not been treated. The one on the right got female stem cells.
And look at that.
It's clean.
I am embarrassed to admit that as a woman, it had never really occurred to me that doing the experiment in male versus female animals would give completely different results.
And that led to further discoveries.
Taylor wanted to find out if human stem cells were different too, and she's found that they are.
My stem cells are actually different stem cells from a man's.
Yes.
She told me men's are less powerful to begin with, and then they start to die off.
In men, as they age, they decrease pretty dramatically, and in females, they stay relatively stable. Now think about that.
Wow.
Men develop heart disease much earlier than women. Why not look at the difference and see how to make men live longer without heart disease?
She speculates that ignoring this difference may be one reason stem cell treatments haven't lived up to their promise. And on a broader level, that not studying both male and female animals results in more problems for women down the road.
If the whole darn pipeline is male-dominated and sex differences truly do matter, how can it not be the case that you're going to end up with, on average, a lot more negative side effects in women than in men? I mean, it basically has to happen.
And it does. A GAO report found 8 of the 10 prescription drugs withdrawn from the market from 1997 to 2001 posed greater health risks for women than for men. Today, when it comes to government-funded studies on humans, women must be included by law. But many researchers don't then take the next step and analyze the results by sex, which some argue defeats the whole purpose.
We have come upon studies where they do use both male and female, but they then don't analyze how the two respond differently. So they have the two and no analysis of the difference.
If you do the two together and you really think females are here and males are here, or vice versa, then you're going to get results that are right here.
And so they're almost
they're
useless.
almost not predictive of either males or females.
If you're clumping men and women together in your study, and there truly is a sex difference, you're not just harming the women, you're harming the men. You're muddling up the understanding of what's going on. You're muddling up the path to clear treatment, not just for the women, but for the men as well.
The problem, he says, is that the scientific establishment hasn't caught up with its own discoveries.
If science got Ambien so wrong, does that tell you that we really need to go back and review?
Yes.
What, everything?
Pretty much everything, yeah. Is once you see this difference, and that difference, and that difference, and that difference, and that difference, and you see this thing's everywhere, you go, wait a minute. So the assumption we're making that it really doesn't matter, sex, is not a valid assumption. It may not matter. It may matter hugely. It may flip your results on their head, and you don't know. So what happens is you start to realize, wow, the status quo is not okay. The way we're doing business has to change.
There are scientists who say the Ambien situation is like a wake-up call. It's a tip of the iceberg. So should the FDA go back and look at other drugs?
Well, you know, to say every drug, go back and look again, that's an enormous undertaking.
So can women feel secure that the dosages recommended on any of their medications is proper for them? Or should they now be a little worried?
In medical practice, there is a general awareness that there may be individual differences among patients, and that every patient needs to have the right dose.
How's a doctor supposed to know?
You start at the lowest dose and you see if it's enough.
Yeah, but you're doing the studies, and they're going to rely on your recommendation. It sounds like the FDA is being more reactive than aggressive about this.
I think we're being very aggressive about bringing the most sophisticated science to new drugs and being aggressive about applying the science where we have reason to believe there's a concern to older drugs.
In the 3 months since our story first aired, a lot has happened. A bipartisan group of 15 women senators sent an open letter to the FDA commissioner citing our report and asking for better representation of women and analysis of sex differences in drug trials. And just last week, the National Institutes of Health made a major announcement. It will now require scientists to include plans for balancing male and female animals and cells in all government-funded research. The announcement said, our goal is to transform how science is done.
Don't bother. He's dead.
You're dead too. Is this hell? Eternity of people trying to convince me to live.
Who says I'm here to convince you to live?
Everybody dies. It's meaningless.
When you solve the puzzle, the world makes sense and everything feels right.
House goes out with a bang. Monday, House, the series finale at 10:50 on Pearl. Monsoons that cause rivers to rise by 4 meters.
A few weeks ago, this was dry land. Coatis running across it. Now it's covered in water. As far as the eye can see.
And surviving the lights of death. Tuesday, Wingxing Photo Supply's 40th anniversary presents Wild Brazil at 9:30 on Pearl Spectacular.
Where am I going? I'm leaving to Japan. I'm participating in a summer course held by Nikkei, studying at an established Japanese institution with a long history and good academic reputation. If you want to learn Japanese the right way, come join Nikkei's overseas summer course in Japan.
The selection of the chief executive by universal suffrage in 2017 will be a milestone in Hong Kong's constitutional development. The Basic Law sets out the aim of achieving universal suffrage and the relevant principles. On this basis, we can elect our chief executive by one person, one vote. So what does the Basic Law say? Let's take a look.
According to Article 45 of the Basic Law, the selection of the chief executive consists of 3 steps. First, nomination. A broadly representative nominating committee will be formed to nominate candidates in accordance with democratic procedures. Second, one person, one vote election. All eligible Hong Kong voters will elect the chief executive through one person, one vote. Third, appointment. Appointment by the Central People's Government as the chief executive.
Following these steps, we can all elect our chief executive in 2017.
It could be the costliest natural catastrophe in the history of our planet.
We're not prepared for it.
That wave could be as much as a kilometre high.
But it's coming.
Not a matter of if, but of when.
Wednesday, could we survive a mega tsunami? At 9:30 on Pearl.
So you will each get to choose 3 of your former competitors to join your team.
Teamwork makes the dream work. I hold, you cut.
There can be only one winner.
The stakes are amped up on this, and I want Race to win.
Sunday, Face Off, the season finale at 8:30 on Pearl.
Liam Neeson, at 61 years old, has become one of the highest-paid movie stars in Hollywood. His latest film, A Million Ways to Die in the West, opens Friday. You may remember him as Oscar Schindler in Steven Spielberg's movie Schindler's List, or in dozens of other classical dramatic roles. But today, he's best known as one of the most sought-after action stars in the movie business. Neeson's success is bittersweet. 5 years ago, his wife, the actress Natasha Richardson, fell while skiing and died from a traumatic brain injury. He had said very little about her death until he talked with us last winter. We started our story about Neeson where he was born, in Ballymena, a blue-collar town just outside Belfast, Northern Ireland.
That was my house down there, our house.
Which one? That one? Right there?
Yeah. It's funny, they look so quaint now, these houses.
So when you were growing up here, was it working class?
Very working class. Hard working people, Protestant and Catholic. Didn't suffer fools gladly. Could see right through you.
And you're still the same way?
I hope so.
Not many Ballymena boys dreamed of becoming an actor, but Liam Neeson was drawn to the stage in grammar school.
This is the stage where I first performed. I think I was 11 or 12 years of age. And I joined it because there's always a gorgeous girl.
That's what was the root of it?
Yeah. Who had skin of alabaster. Kid you not.
Really?
Lips, cherry red. She was 11 years of age.
Do you remember that feeling of being on the stage for the first time?
I sure do. I'll never forget. And you know where I was standing? Right over there. And it was like, oh my God, this is great, you know.
Neeson saw acting as an escape. He went to Belfast, where he auditioned for the director of the Lyric Theatre. At the time, Belfast was a dangerous place because of clashes between Protestants and Catholics over British rule.
I called up, and they were actually looking for someone over 6 feet.
So that was one of the first questions they asked you, how tall are you?
Yeah. And I said, I'm 6'4", and she said to me, be up here next Thursday. So I came up and did an audition, a very crude but passionate and desperate audition for her. And she said, why do you want to do it? And I said something like, if I don't do it, I'll curl up and die.
Did you mean that?
I did, kind of. It was a way out.
He won his first movie role at 28, cast as a Knight of the Round Table with Helen Mirren in the 1981 film Excalibur.
I fell in love with Helen Mirren. Oh, my God. Can you imagine riding horses in shiny suits of armor, having sword fights and stuff? And you're falling in love with Helen Mirren? It doesn't get any better than that.
Mirren helped get him an agent, and his talent, good looks, and sexual magnetism won him Hollywood's attention. Over the years, he got small roles in big films, but he didn't get worldwide recognition.
Smile.
Until he was cast in Schindler's List by director Steven Spielberg.
Their fingers polish the insides of shell metal casings. How else am I to polish the inside of a 45mm shell casing? You tell me. You tell me!
He said that he wasn't looking for a movie star, but he was looking for somebody that women would...
Yes.
That had a presence, but that women would fall for.
He didn't tell me that, but I think he certainly wanted someone without any cinematic baggage.
Liam Neeson was nominated for an Academy Award for his role, but we were surprised to learn he isn't satisfied with his performance.
This car. Good, what about this car? I thought the film was quite extraordinary, except for myself.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you always that critical of yourself?
I was of that one.
What did you not like about yourself, though?
I didn't own the part. It wasn't, I didn't see enough of me in there.
Neeson says he does see himself in the action movies he's been making the past few years, though at times he seems almost embarrassed by his success as an action star.
I'm 61 years of age, man, you know, going around fighting these guys. I feel a wee bit embarrassed, you know, and of course there's always a part of your mind you think, oh, I wish I was 37 years of age again, you know. I will find you, and I will kill you.
He was 56 when Taken, the first action thriller he starred in, came out. It cost just $25 million to make and earned more than $250 million at the box office. He was as surprised as anyone that it became a hit.
I was convinced it was straight to video, so it would go under the radar.
Why did you think it would go straight to video?
It just seemed such a simple little story. I thought there was nothing complex about it. There was a guy going determined to find his daughter. Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, look, he finds her. And he kills all these guys.
In his newest action film, Non-Stop, Neeson plays an air marshal fighting terrorists aboard a plane. It's a physically demanding role, one few actors his age can pull off. Neeson works hard to stay in shape, well aware there are only so many years left to make the big money of an action star.
The reports are for Taken 3, you're going to make upwards of $50 million. You're laughing.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a working class guy from, you know, from Northern Ireland. Does that feel real to you?
No, it's kind of, it's fantasy time, you know. It is. But it's great, you know, and it's not going to last, you know. So I'm milking it a little bit, you know. Not in an ego way, but I'm saying, okay, I'm comfortable with this.
The first Taken film came out just 2 months before Neeson's wife, Natasha Richardson, died.
We got married here in this house, yeah, 20 years ago.
At their farmhouse in upstate New York, he agreed to talk with us about Natasha's death. They'd worked together on Broadway in Eugene O'Neill's classic play Anna Christie in 1993.
She was a radiant beauty, yeah. Just cascading hair, I remember. It was very, very attractive. I'd never had that kind of an explosive chemistry situation with an actor or actress.
You actually felt it on stage?
Yeah, she and I were like a Astaire and Rogers. We had this wonderful kind of dance, free dance on stage every night, you know.
And I must say, I don't care for your language. Men I know don't pull that rough stuff when ladies are around.
Ladies? Oh. Natasha was the daughter of British actress Vanessa Redgrave. She continued her acting career while raising their two boys, Michael and Daniel, who were just 13 and 12 when she died.
And she cared for everybody. She has a motherly instinct. And she'd make dinners for everyone and just looked after us all, you know.
Oh, I heard you can find the cloud even in a silver lining.
Yeah.
That she was she would see the silver lining.
Yeah. I would always see the glass half empty.
You do?
She would see it half full.
In March 2009, Natasha was on a ski vacation in Quebec, Canada with her oldest son, Michael. She was coming down a beginner's slope on Mont Tremblant when she fell and hit her head. She wasn't wearing a helmet. An ambulance was called, but she reportedly turned down medical attention and was escorted to her hotel room by her ski instructor and a member of the ski patrol. Neeson was in Toronto filming a movie when she called him.
I spoke to her and she said, "Oh, darling, I've taken a tumble in the snow." That's how she described it.
Do you think she had any idea about what could go wrong?
No, of course not. Who would, you know?
What Natasha didn't know was she was experiencing what doctors call the lucid interval, a period when someone with a traumatic brain injury appears normal, but blood is building in the brain, causing pressure which can be fatal. A second ambulance was called, and Natasha was taken to the local hospital, arriving more than 3 hours after the fall. Neeson received a call from his assistant.
And Joanna said, "Look, you better get up there straight away." And then I flew up immediately. When I was in the air, the pilot was told, "Listen, divert your flight to Montreal because she's going to be taken to the big hospital in Montreal." I got a taxi to this hospital, and this doctor who looked all of 17 showed me her x-ray, and you didn't need to be a rocket scientist to see what was happening, you know. It was like a cartoon. You know, the brain's squashed up against the side of the skull as the blood tries to get a release, you know.
Was she conscious then?
I was told she was brain dead. And seeing this x-ray was like, wow, yeah. But obviously she was on life support and stuff, and I went into her and told her I loved her, said, "Sweetie, you're not coming back from this. You've banged your head. I don't know if you can hear me, but this is what's gone down. And we're bringing you back to New York. All your family and friends will come." And that was more or less it, you know.
But at that point, you didn't think that there was any hope?
She and I had made a pact. If any of us got into a vegetative state, we pulled the plug, you know. So when I saw her and saw all these tubes and stuff, that was my immediate thought was, okay, these tubes have to go. She's gone. But donated 3 of her organs, so she's keeping 3 people alive at the moment. Yeah, her heart, her kidneys, and her liver. But
that must give you a good feeling.
It's terrific, yeah, it's terrific. And I think she would be very thrilled and pleased with that too, actually.
Did it seem real to you? I mean,
it was never real. It still kind of isn't. There's periods now in our New York residence when I hear the door opening, especially the first couple of years. She would always drop the keys on the table and say, "Hello." So anytime I hear that door opening, I still think I'm going to hear her, you know. And then it's grief's like it hits you. It's like a wave. You just get this profound feeling of instability. You feel like a 3-legged table. Just suddenly, the earth isn't stable anymore. And then it passes and becomes more infrequent. But I still get it sometimes.
What was it like to suddenly be a single parent, raising 2 teenagers?
Listen, I'm okay, you know. It could have been a hell of a lot worse. I'm name-dropping for a second. Bono is a pal, and he came round to have a dinner. And I remember he was sitting beside Michael, and just out of the blue, he said, "What age are you, Michael?" And Michael said, 13. I said, "Yeah, that's the age I was when I lost my mum." That was it. And I could have kissed him for it. He was like saying, you know, I lost my mum at this age, and I'm doing okay. And you will do okay too, you know.
He went back to work just days after Natasha's funeral, and he's worked nearly non-stop ever since.
I'm not good without work. I just don't, I wallow too much, you know, and I just didn't want to, especially for my boys, to be seen to be wallowing in sadness or depression. Or
Having a schedule, having some place to go,
having a schedule, yeah.
That helps.
It helps a great deal.
He's made more than 20 movies since Natasha's death.
What do you think she would make of your...
What, Tekken 5?
Well, no,
what we're about to do?
No, your action, your status now. I mean, the money you're making, the clout you probably have in Hollywood.
She'd be very chuffed at that. She would.
Chuffed is a good thing.
Chuffed's a good thing, yeah.
Should be tickled by it.
Should be tickled, thank you. Yeah.
I'm Scott Pelley. We'll be back next week with another edition of 60 Minutes.
With tips on crime prevention and much, much more. Stay with us now for another edition of RTHK's Police Report.
I want something that lasts, something that can keep up with me and keep me on my toes. Because every waking moment is a learning opportunity. I can choose to learn everything about something or something about everything. And I want to do all that at home.
The Open University of Hong Kong Special, open for learning, 9 a.m. Sunday on Pearl.
冇？咁好呢？勁量鹼性電芯採用電力封存科技，發揮高達3倍電力，俾你玩多啲，換少啲電。勁量就是正能量。
Canon, delighting you always.
The 1989 June 4th pro-democracy movement in Beijing ended in a bloody crackdown.